Good day, I am Squire Fay.
I didn't know we were doing this. I'm Lady Mint. I didn't know we were doing this.
Verily, welcome to ye old monster masquerade. You never start with our names. It always goes the other way around. I don't know why I did.
Ye old monster masquerade.
Ye old ball.
We are not covering anything related to that, but
I went to the fair yesterday, the Red Fair, and it was very fun.
I want to go so bad.
I would go again. Hint, hint.
Oh.
I just have to get paid because
same. I have so much I'm doing this month.
I spent more money yesterday than I probably should have, but I got a cute ring.
Nice.
And I got a goblet for reasons.
Oh, you need a goblet. Everybody needs a goblet.
Because they always do it's always marked with the year that you go.
Oh, that's cute.
So I have a giant clay mug or stein type thing that I got a couple years ago, and that's my D&D cup, right? Because it holds so much, so I can fill it with lots of water, or if I'm being honest, usually alcohol.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
I was I don't have a goblet. It kind of looks like a candelabra.
I want to see it. I don't think I've seen it.
I will take a picture when I go.
Okay.
When I get it downstairs. I definitely did use it for a little bit of mirth and merriment as I was watching Child's Play again.
Classic.
We could talk about the Scoob and the Sword or whatever it was again.
Oh yeah, we could, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
No, it's animated horror time.
Yay! One of my favorites.
Today we're going to be talking about 1987's Perfect Blue,
Woohoo!
Which was written by Sadayuki Murai and directed by Satoshi Kon.
I love Satoshi Kon.
He only has 3 movies.
Yeah,
right?
He tragically passed away way too soon. So
I think I saw he was only in his 40s or something.
Yeah, his last film was Paprika, I believe,
which I've heard very good things about.
Oh, Paprika is so good.
Watch.
Paprika is so good.
Paprika was a Tumblr movie.
Oh,
there were always screenshots. Yeah, there was a ton. Because it's I don't know, a lot of his stuff in reading sounds like it deals with false realities and stuff.
Oh, yeah. It does. It's so good. I just
remember a screen cap of the lady in the red dress.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I ever watched by him was actually his anime series, Paranoia Agent.
Oh, you've talked about this briefly.
I have talked about it briefly. One day I'd like to cover it, but it still scares me. It's scary. It's scary. It's it's not scary in I'm scared horror way. It's just unsettling. Whenever you get done watching it, you're
Oh, that was a lot.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt after this movie.
It has very similar vibes to this movie.
So we should probably mention at the top, big ol' content warning for stalking and also sexual assault.
Yeah.
Both fictionalized within the context of the story and attempted.
Yeah.
So if that's not your deal, just be careful.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Because I feel the main theme is stalking and obsession.
Yes.
So it's always pretty heavy when that's the main theme.
Mm-hmm. But it is about an idol turned actress who's having a bit of an identity crisis with her new role in TV. And she has to deal with angry fans who are impersonating her and also just don't like this new version of her.
Yeah, they're it's classic. I mean, you even still see it in idols today, especially in Japan and Korea. They can't date. They have to be pure. They have to be innocent. So she starts doing more adult stuff and they're no, she would never do that.
Well, and it goes to gross misogyny and infantilizing women anyways, because they do still want her to be super sexual, just
on their terms.
Right.
Yeah. It's gross.
It is very gross. I am not super familiar with like idols or J-pop or anything like that.
I am. Let me tell you.
But like the themes of this also, I feel like have translated really, really well to like current day social media, and especially like parasocial relationships with streamers and content creators. Like it was a lot, and I feel like, I mean, I have personally dealt with those weird parasocial relationships before, and it's not fun.
Nope.
And she definitely goes through that and like major imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
which anybody who's done creative stuff can be like, oh, I feel that.
Yeah, I feel like this is very relatable. I think you mentioned like reading something about how as the years goes on, this becomes like more and more relevant, and it's just true.
It's not like the
gotten worse,
the
not
headline
better.
of an article. I did not read it.
But you read the headline, so
I did read the headline.
It's true though.
So yeah, it's interesting. I actually could not find like a ton of information when I was looking, or like modern analysis, but I feel like it calls for it.
It does call for it, and I think that's because a lot of people focus on Paprika, just because Inception was based off Paprika. But there's references to Perfect Blue in a lot of media. Even if what's his face, Darren Aronofsky. Yeah, Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah,
that guy. Whatever. It's a tongue twister. I'm so sorry. The guy who made Black Swan, like he swears up and down he wasn't inspired by Perfect Blue, but like the parallels at times are so uncanny. Like it's like, okay, sure.
When I did read like Satoshi Kon had like a blog or something where he talks about meeting Aronofsky, and it's like y'all met and had an extensive conversation about stuff. Like you can say you're inspired by different media. Like no one's gonna think you're any less smart. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like an ego thing. It's like, no, I made it. And it's like you can be inspired by things, like because Christopher Nolan did say he was inspired by Paprika. So, but
I did that.
Yeah, and
I made this. I made this.
But Requiem for a Dream also references Perfect Blue, so I think that's pretty cool.
I don't have a ton of experience with idols, right? Neither did Satoshi. He famously so he was working on the original run of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the old anime series.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
He actually got picked up because he was working on those OVAs, and they were like, oh, hey, you would be really good for like a movie. We want you to direct something. And he was like, I also would like it if I directed something. And so they pitched him Perfect Blue, which is based off of a short story that I couldn't find a whole lot of like stuff about either. Like they changed a couple of details. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. Even though he like verbatim says that I don't like idols and I don't like horror. And so the original plot of the movie was like much more basic. Like it didn't have anything to do with the internal like fixation or like introspection, right? It was just about the plot summary was like a perverted fan follows or stalks an ex-idol. So he was like, yeah, I will do this movie, but can I change a couple of details? And they were like, yeah, sure, I guess so. So that's where like the writing by Sadayuki Mirai came in, because they essentially like worked on it together to add all those other elements that make this movie like kind of unique.
It works because it's very unique in the twists. It's like at times you're like, what? Wait, what? Huh? Like I think you were even like, huh?
It's kind of hard to. It's like deliberately hard to follow at parts, just because like it kind of relies on the unreliable narrator, right?
Yeah.
Like she so quickly, her psyche starts to fall apart as she's unsure of like who she is, that it lends itself to the plot very well.
It does. I love this movie. I hate calling it like a comfort film because it's so fucked up, but it's like very comfy. I don't know. I like this movie, and I think it has to do with the like nostalgic late 80s, early 90s anime art style. It's just nostalgic.
Yeah, there's like a grunginess to this movie that like it feels I don't know. It's just very interesting. I couldn't tell if the backgrounds, they looked kind of painted to me like a mixed media
I was
thing.
looking for stuff about that and I just like could not find anything.
Yeah, it's real good. I think I do enjoy this movie like for the most part, and most of my issues with it are like larger systemic failings that I kind of talked about like after we had finished it.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, this movie does play into the trope of like person with disability slash disfigurement is bad guy.
Yeah.
And also like extra twist at the very end is just like a woman who is fat and could be called ugly is the bad guy.
Yeah. I think, I mean, 1980s Japan, so it's kind of hard, because they're still really bad about that in Japan, which isn't like an excuse, but
No, for sure, because even like Junji Ito stuff can kind of
yeah.
fall into like that stuff, and we are only like barely making efforts to get away from. Usually, you see it with like characters with like cleft palates are often villainized, but it's still definitely a thing where it's like, oh, this person has a disability, so they are scary.
Yeah, it's definitely not great.
But I do appreciate the approach that this movie takes, like for the most part.
Yeah. Well, and the twist at the end, because like the friend who, I guess, spoiler, the twist at the end, the friend who it is like masterminding the whole time, you don't really suspect her at all for the most part. Like you think she's just like genuinely a good friend.
She disappears for a bit, and then she comes back, and it's like, wait, what? Now she's the bad guy? Like she's also having a dissociative episode?
Because she gets upset. I guess that's when you could be like, huh, what's going on? There's a scene where the main character, she has to film a scene where she's being sexually assaulted. It's like very graphic. And like no one's having a good time. But the friend is watching, she has the least bad time, like or the most bad time, and she leaves, and that's kind of when she disappears. I think it like makes her spiral.
Oh yeah, because like you find out that she is running like the blog that is supposed to be like an autobiographical diary.
Yeah.
That's a tough word.
She's like, I am this person.
Yeah, she's pretending to be her like idol form still. It's just like, I hate this. I hate what I'm having to do. I want to go back. And then that further fuels the creepy guy into like becoming violent.
Yeah, she like encourages him to be violent. She's like, we have to eliminate the fake one. And this is all stuff that like I fear streaming. Like as a streamer, because I've had multiple run-ins with like parasocial stuff. And I'm like a small streamer. So like I can't imagine how it is for big streamers. Like people get obsessive and weird.
Well, and like they even touch on that at the beginning, because like the group that she's a part of is like
they're not that big,
kind of popular, but they haven't made it like super big.
Yeah,
like, they have their fans that are diehard, but it's not until after she leaves that her two friends like get super super big and make like top 100.
Yep, I think that can almost be worse too, because then the fans that are your fans have like a superiority complex. Like they're like, I was here first. Like I supported them through everything, and like I've been here, and yeah, it lends to like the obsession.
Yes, for sure. This movie was also distributed by G Kids. That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
I mean, they distribute a whole lot of stuff. Like their goal is to like distribute high quality anime and Japanese movies to the US. So like they've done a whole lot of Studio Ghibli stuff. They distributed Evangelion and a whole bunch of things.
Apparently they used the creator of Akira's name to like try and hype up this movie.
Did they?
Yeah, he was credited as a special supervisor so that his name would be attached to the film so that more people would want to see it, because it was right after the like extreme success of Akira. I think that's very interesting.
I guess that makes sense if you have like a first time director too.
Yeah.
That you just want to like get as many big names attached to it as possible.
Yeah. I think they wanted it to do well like in the West, just like Akira did, because Akira, I feel like arguably like Akira and Ghost in the Shell can be credited to bringing like Japanese culture into the West as far as like anime. Sure. And then like Dragon Ball followed, but I really think like Akira, Ghost in the Shell are like the big ones. I went on a tangent about that the other day because I was complaining about Scarlett Johansson being in Ghost in the Shell and why like out of all the things she could like whitewash, that is like one of the worst. And right. God, my friends were like, Mint, please. Sorry. But they were just like, please. But I don't know.
That's why like you have to be careful with like cyberpunk aesthetic because it does so often fall into like Orientalism.
Yeah.
And that's not great. It's just because you have those huge titles that were like either set those precedents or like were pretty integral to it.
Yeah. And you have to look at the success and be like, what made these things so special? And it has a lot to do with the culture in Japan, and it's like very specific to stuff going on in Japan. America tries to be like, no, that's ours.
I did this.
Like everything. It's like, no, we're in a different kind of dystopia. But yes.
That's the theme for this episode. You did this? No.
No.
I did this.
I love Perfect Blue. I just love looking at this film.
It's so interesting to it. It's so skeevy too. Like, there's so many like skin crawly parts. Like I hate it. You know what? It actually like kind of reminds me of is Scream 3.
Yeah.
It's dealing with like all the Hollywood like assault and creepy old dudes. It reminds me a lot of that. I think this is maybe, I don't know. I think this like approaches that subject more tastefully than Scream 3 does.
Definitely does.
I like this one
because they yell at the directors. I think that scene, the like really hard to watch scene, is the most like horrific scene. Just because like the actor even knows, like he says sorry beforehand. It's like he's aware it's bad. The directors are aware it's bad because they look like kind of disgusted. Her talent agent is like, oh, like he's like, it's not good. It's not good. And in the middle of all this, like everybody associated with her is like getting murdered. That's the funniest thing about like the Hollywood stuff. It's every time someone gets murdered or attacked, they're like, it's probably fine.
What a weird coincidence.
It's nothing.
And like literally the guy, the writer gets murdered after the fucking explosive letter was delivered, and they were like, "Do you think it's connected?" Yes, probably.
And they're working on a crime show. Like the show they're filming is a crime show, and they're like, "Could it be?" Yes, it could. It definitely is. What do you mean?
And even her main agent or whatever, he's just like, oh, if you want to get the big roles, like you gotta pay your dues. Like you have to do this really demeaning stuff in order to make it. And everybody else, like all the other women and like near them are like, no, that's not great.
Yeah, it's just not great. She didn't need to do all that, and she's like upset the whole time. And she's like, "This is what I needed to do," but it's really
like she does start to like miss her friends and miss making music, but it's like she wants to be taken seriously by everybody else, so she feels like she has to do this. Like that conversation with her mom on the phone is so sad because her mom is like, "Are you like 100% sure? Because you spent a lot of time like working on your music and like saying that this is what you wanted to do."
It's sad. This movie is just sad.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like introspection, and then it starts like overlapping with what she's filming in the show that she's in, and so that gets a little confusing.
Well, that's what, like, and I think it's interesting too because like even if you are an actor, right, your body is still going to react to that stress of acting a scene like you would normally.
Oh yeah.
So like of course you're gonna like I said it when we were watching it, but like they probably would not have had like a quote unquote like intimacy coordinator, but for sure would have called for it. I feel like if it were being filmed like now. And it was also just like everything is so gross about that scene in particular, but it's just like everyone is there and there are so many like onlookers, and I don't know. It's just like ugh, it's like a cruel on an unnecessary level, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm glad like a lot of media I feel like has stepped away from doing that as shock factor.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you can imply things have happened without being like, here's this extremely gruesome scene we put our actors through.
Yes, for sure. Like especially when it comes to horror, and a lot of times it defaults to that when it comes to like violence perpetuated against women in the genre. But we've also gotten to a place where people are becoming more able to say no to stuff and like have a little bit more control in what they can or can't film. But there's still definitely like part of entertainment where it's just like you will have people who do not accept your no and will just like cancel your career if you refuse to participate.
Yeah.
Anyway, the movie.
Something else interesting about the movie is like looking at like the computers and how they interact with them. I feel like it dates the movie in a very interesting way. Because you have someone who should know how to use a computer, but there's a whole scene where she's like trying to learn how to use a computer. So I think that's kind of interesting to watch. She's like, I don't know how to like Google something, you know, because Google didn't exist.
Right. I'm surprised we didn't get any like dial-up noises.
Yeah. But that's also interesting because like the diary thing is online. So it shows that like the creepos that were on early internet culture, like back in the day, your parents were like, oh, don't talk to strangers on the internet. And that's like all you do. But it used to be like really dangerous.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of like experience with early internet days or like blogs.
I wasn't allowed on the internet. I could play like knowledge games, like learning games. Like,
cool math games.
Yeah. But I couldn't, I wasn't allowed to like, I didn't read fanfic. I wasn't allowed on like the message boards and stuff.
Right. I think the first YouTube video I ever watched was Weird Al's White and Nerdy.
Mine was that cat that's like, cat, I'm a kitty cat. And I danced.
Well, because someone had like sent it to my mom in an email and was like, this is the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. And so she pulled it up on the family computer, which was in the living room, I think, or it might have even been in their bedroom. And then we waited like 20 minutes for the video to fully load and watched it like 3 or 4 times. But
that's so fun.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I most of what I know, I feel like, is by osmosis, and just like the emphasis was on like chat rooms and
yeah. Oh, did you ever do like early day AIM, like AOL Instant Messenger?
No, I didn't, but I'm familiar with the like CDs of like 100 hours of internet.
Me and my friends would get on there and like talk to strangers and pretend to be like way older women. We should not have done that.
It's so unsafe.
I know. It's so funny though. It's so funny though, because everyone was like lying on there, you know. We're like 5th graders. We're like ASL. We're like, oh, we're 20. Oh my lord.
Oh, and another, because we're talking about like entertainment industries, right? Another interesting like tidbit is that the TV show that they're filming in the movie is almost directly like a straight ripoff of Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, really? Oh yeah, I guess it was. That's so funny.
It's almost like Silence of the Lambs meets like Twin Peaks a little bit.
I love Twin Peaks.
But definitely those silence vibes.
Yeah.
And that was because Satoshi Kon said that like, yeah, that just happened a lot. Something would get really popular in the US, and then in Japan we'd be like, how quickly can we make a ripoff of this movie?
I mean, they did that a lot with Twin Peaks, honestly, in Japan. There's like a lot of media. Honestly, that's kind of a vibe I get from the whole movie now that you mention it. It's like Twin Peaks. Just like there's a straightforward crime happening, but then there's like all this other stuff going on.
It's very good.
I didn't realize I wouldn't have as much stuff to talk about for this movie, though.
It's okay. I feel like we haven't really gone over like a ton of the plot. We've just like
the ending is so cool. The chase scene.
That chase scene is so intense. Oh my gosh.
There's a very intense chase scene, and I love it. I love it. I do hate there is like the fat phobia within the chase scene, like obviously like very prevalent, but I love that chase scene.
I was very confused at first because after she is rescued by Rumi, they wake up and it looks like her room, but it's not, because Rumi has made an exact duplicate of her room.
Creepy. It's so creepy.
After she killed all her fish.
And why did she kill all her fish? I guess because she was mad.
I don't know. I don't know.
I was trying to remember like all of the triggers when we started, because I was like, wait, I think there's a ton of sexual assault in this movie. So I was like looking it up on Does the Dog Die? And there were so many like, no, but fish do. No, but a lot of fish die. And I was like, I don't know why it's so funny.
People die for sure.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you like this movie because it does have like eyeball stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I like movies with eyeball stuff. it hurts. Eyeball stuff is my least favorite gore. Like, I have to close my eyes. I'm like, because I get really bad sympathy pains. I don't know. I think we talked about this. We might have talked about this during the Evil Dead. Because I don't know if it's like an autism thing or what. But like, I get intense sympathy pains from like most gore. And it's usually fine because I'm in pain all the time anyway. But the eyes, I can't. I'm just like, it makes my eyes like burn. So
how much of the movie do you think like actually happened, like within the contents of the story?
I think like most of it happened.
Because like there's that part where
I don't think the main character murdered that guy. That's the part that I'm unsure of.
That's what I think. I don't know how.
I think
she would have found. I don't know how his clothes would have gotten in her closet.
I think the friend planted it.
Maybe, but the dude did the murder, right? Or no?
I
guess
the friend did the murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think she was getting framed, but she was already in a psychological break. So she was like, "What have I done?" She was like fully convinced that she did it, but she didn't.
And she almost convinces herself that she is writing a blog, or at least there's another part of her that is. Yeah,
so she starts hallucinating like her fake self.
We haven't even said her name. Her name is Mima.
Yes. I like Mima.
She's very good.
I feel bad for her.
I think it's very interesting that like a lot of like quote unquote elevated horror has to deal with the question of like, who am I and am I real?
Yeah. I think that's why I like horror, because I'm just asking myself that every day.
Am I sitting at my desk with a microphone in front of me?
Honestly. That's a different podcast. We're not going to talk about why I like horror or my personal issues. We're not going to do that. But yeah, I do think that's why it's relatable. That's why she specifically is so relatable. I love her. Just she's going through it. Like the scene where she's like, because she always leans her head on the window and it looks back at her. And I'm like, that's like a feeling that you get. Maybe not everybody gets it, but I get that feeling like very frequently, where you just feel like you're not yourself, like at all times. And maybe that has to do with masking a lot too, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like sometimes I will catch myself in the mirror and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What is that?
Who? Yeah. I was talking about that the other day too, because I felt like I looked nice and I was like, oh my gosh, I really like my face today. And I have a friend who was like, it's the same face every day. And I was like, no, it's not. I don't know how else to explain that other than it's just not. It's not the same face every day.
Yeah, no, I think part of also what makes that twist at the very end so scary is just like that betrayal of trust.
Mm-hmm.
Because Rumi, like, yes, she was her agent, but also like gave the impression that she cared very deeply about Mima, like personally.
Yeah, well, and she did, but like,
Right. But not for Mima's benefit.
no, sadly not. It may have
So
started that way. Like, it may have started like a super. She's like, I love this person, but then just like obsessive,
mm-hmm.
like super obsessive.
It does kind of make me wonder, like, why she didn't attach to the rest of the idol group. Or maybe
I
it's
think
just,
Mima
like,
was supposed to be the main girl.
Mm-hmm.
Because in like a trio, especially, there's usually a like a leader type, and I think she was like the leader type, and that's why it was such a big deal that she stepped down.
Mm-hmm.
But then they did better as a duo, so. And they get a podcast. I think it's very interesting the success that they have without her and how that probably affected her mentally. Because I would be a wreck. Like I would be a wreck. Like if I was in a group, and that was my whole life. And the second I left, they had success. I would be like, oh, I'm trash. Like I'm not good at anything. And like then you're like, oh, I'm a mediocre performer. I'm a mediocre actress.
Mm-hmm.
And you just start spiraling, which she does. She spirals, and then she has to deal with the stalker on top of that, and then she has to deal with thinking there's like a fake version of herself.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then being in a TV show that like directly parallels the situation that she is in.
Yeah, it's a lot. This character, Mima, goes through so much.
That's why I like the very last line at the end, because she goes to visit Rumi in the hospital where she's staying, and a couple of nurses see her and they were like, "Oh, is that Mima?" Like, no, that's not her. She just might must look a whole lot like this famous person, because what would she do in a hospital like this?
Yeah, why would she?
And then she
be
gets
here?
her in her car and she's like, "No, I'm the real me."
Yeah, that is really nice, and it's like implying that she's successful enough that people recognize her now, like just out in the wild, like everyone knows who she is.
Yeah.
So she healed. We love to see it. I doubt it was easy for her too. But
right. There's another part that I'm not entirely sure if it was like actually gonna happen or not, or if it was just like a scenario that she made up in her head, because it made it sound like she was going to return to the group for like a one-time performance, and then something happens, or that's when she like starts chasing after her fake self and stuff.
Yeah, I think that didn't actually happen. I think she was hallucinating. Probably. Well, and it's also implied a bit, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm reading it wrong, that her friend was drugging her. Because there's like a sequence where like her friend comes over, makes her tea, she passes out, feels like she relives the day, comes home, has tea, passes out, and her friend's like, no, we didn't talk yesterday, we were just talking today. And like it keeps like repeating, like you think it's going to be a Groundhog Day experience, but then it was like stuff that was actually happening. So I think her friend was drugging her. But
maybe.
I played a lot of Japanese otome games, and that is a very common trope where like the one that's like obsessed will like start drugging you. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe that's what was happening. I should have probably looked that up, but I don't know. It seems like that's probably what was happening. Mm-hmm. So then she's just living her days like already feeling weird, hallucinating, and like a weird haze from whatever her friend is doing. And that would explain how her friend like is getting in so easily and like planting stuff and killing her fish. Mm-hmm. That's what I think was happening.
I do also think it's very cool, like in that final chase scene where it's like alternating between Rumi and the fake Mima. Like, I don't know. There's probably some like deeper, because she's like literally like in her mind fighting herself, but also like cognizant enough to recognize that like, oh no, this person will kill me. Like,
yeah, she like realizes it. Also, I googled it. Rumi, that's the friend. she was drugging her even before the tea. Apparently she's bringing her like cake and stuff and it's drugged. So that's why she starts like spiraling and hallucinating all the time. So that makes sense.
I did think that Mima was going to get hit by the car at the end.
I thought so
like,
too.
Trying to save Rumi.
Why would she try to save her? I guess because it shows she's a good person. Like I would also do the same thing, but watching the movie, I'm like, what? Like, don't do that.
Watching her like accidentally stab herself because she's trying to get what was it, a wig? Was that what she was trying to, or something?
Something.
She was reaching for something and then stabs herself and then just walks out into the middle of the street. Like, ugh.
That scene is so stressful. It's so good though. Apparently there's a live action version too, but I don't think it did very well.
I could see this as like a stage play.
Oh yes.
For sure.
Definitely. Yeah, okay. In 2002, there was an attempt to bring it to a live action setting, but it was not very good. They were trying to just like recreate the novel though, apparently.
Oh, okay.
And I think the animated film veered a lot from the novel.
Mm-hmm. Because he just didn't want to do something that he wasn't interested in.
Which is good that he didn't, because I feel like you get better art when you're not forced to do something. Mm-hmm. Which kind of plays into the plot of this movie.
Right.
Like she's forced to do stuff she doesn't want to, so she's not creating stuff that she wants to. I just love this movie. Everyone should watch this movie. Because I feel like us discussing it does not do it justice because of the amazing art in the movie.
Right.
The art is so good. And it's one of those things that I'm like, it doesn't need a live action. Just like Akira doesn't need a live action.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that's the thing that's happening.
I think it's not going to.
I don't know.
I hope not. Scarlett Johansson's like, oh, put me in it. I want to be in Akira.
There is like an American version, like live action version being planned, but I don't remember like any details about who's attached to it.
I'm reading it now. We're veering off topic for a second.
That's okay.
Announced a few years ago, blah, 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 blah. In 2019, Warner Brothers, blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's going to be Taika?
Oh, yeah.
Your mic cut out of it, so you said, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh,
he's a big old nerd.
But he's busy now. Oh.
Oh, yeah. He's
Star Wars. So it might not be him.
Oh, yeah. Because he got all that Marvel cred. And then Our Flag Means Death, and then literally everything he works on, he's like one of my favorite directors.
I love him.
I would still be nervous.
Yeah, I would be nervous too. Like, they have to get a Japanese director. Like, I'm sorry. Akira is one of those things that it's like, you can't fuck it up.
Even like, there's so much like source material within the manga that isn't addressed in the movie, apparently.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like they tried to pull from that, but also I don't know.
Yeah, apparently he still has the rights to it, but he's too busy, so I don't know. We'll see. Honestly, I hope it just doesn't go forward. I don't.
It does make me laugh every time the English dub says Canada.
Canada. I've been watching Evangelion again, and I've been switching between sub and dub depending on if I'm like busy or not. Like if I'm doing something else and like just want it in the background, I switch it to English. And the dub is actually not that bad, but there's some stuff that I'm like, that's not right. They're not saying that. I'm just like, that's incorrect.
Yeah, I think I started with dub for that one, which it was the Netflix dub because they brought in like a new cast.
Yeah, I like the vibes. Maybe I'm a snob, but like late 80s, early 90s anime is like, it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. And there's good modern anime too. I mean, like look at Chainsaw Man. But it's just different. The vibes are so different.
Well, it's like we've talked about like film and entertainment media and art forms being like a reflection of like the time and environment that they were produced in.
Yeah.
there's just a lot of like very interesting stuff with like the economic bubble popping in Japan and a whole lot of I just think it's interesting. It's interesting. And it's like not something that we are entirely familiar with. Like there are themes that travel across, obviously, but like, you know, situation it's a little different.
It is in the US. It is a little different, and I think it's doubly so when it's like horror, because like I mean everyone talks about 80s horror, 70s, 80s horror, and it's like so different from modern horror. So
you remember back in like the early 2010s, like every movie was was about the world ending.
Oh my gosh, like, yes.
Like cataclysmic, because everybody was convinced that like global warming will destroy us all.
Yes.
But like
they thought it was going to like really fast.
Like 2012 specifically, like Day After Tomorrow, there was a movie called 2012, but it's just like there for a little bit, like every single horror movie was about like
the world's gonna end.
The weather's killing us.
Freaking The Happening.
Day After Tomorrow. And what's that Nicolas Cage one with the numbers?
Numbers?
Is that what it's called?
I think so. Hold on. Oh, it's called Knowing.
Oh, yeah. Because there's like a kid that knows.
That knows.
He knows.
He knows. But it is interesting. I wonder, so like, what's the current like trope? Like, what's existential dread?
You know, a lot of it is just like we've gone back to AI, Black Mirror type stuff.
That's
that, like,
true.
Our technology is going to kill us.
It might.
In social medias.
I don't ever want an AI me. I would like to make that very clear. Out in the public, I don't ever want an AI me. If I die, you're not talking to an AI me.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't talk to AI me. People are talking to AI anime characters. Like that, you can like talk to a character that is an AI, and I feel like that's very bad for people's brains.
There's like whole streams about it and stuff. It's weird.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad. Stop. Stop,
don't
please.
Like
it stresses me out. Oh, let's go back to 80s horror.
But it's like all AI stuff is just like rich tech bros like bullshitting people on the capabilities of their stuff and like not knowing how it works themselves.
Scary. I don't like it.
Adam Conover does like a lot of like his stuff is just generally like very good, but he was saying, or he had a video come out recently where he was talking about AI and like how people will hype up to investors that it's like this thing that is even like artificial intelligence itself is misleading as a name, because it's just a whole lot of formulas that have to be like routinely maintained. Like he was saying that they're like that type of work gets outsourced to places where they can pay like $2 an hour to make sure that AI, like chat GPT, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Like literally run by people who make $2 an hour, just so it doesn't like fucking fall apart.
So bad.
So again, it all goes back to capitalism.
The true horror, honestly.
For real.
Like it just is. Oh. So what you should take away from this episode is capitalism bad. Capitalism leads to parasocial relationship. Capitalism leads to dystopian hellscapes.
That's I think I haven't seen it yet, but from everything that I've read, like Bodies is like supposed to be peak like
I do want to see
Gen
that.
Z horror comedy type.
I've heard
like,
it's good.
Like it perfectly encapsulates like social media and stuff like that. And I just think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting. You could almost spend an entire podcast like breaking down decades and talking about
that'd
like
be so fun.
What was scary. And we've done it like periodically. Like we talked about like with Halloween, what made that movie so scary when it first came out is just like the idea that like your house is not as safe as you would like to think it is.
Yeah. And this one is like, you could be being stalked. I'm always scared of that anyway. I think this movie is so realistic for me. I've been stalked. I don't know if we want to have a little fun mini side story time, but I've been stalked before and it's scary and it feels like this. He would like call up to my work and tell me to make him pies.
What?
Yeah. He was like, I know you're at work right now. Like, I'm not joking. You have to make me a pie. Like, I would have to make like my male employees come up there with me because I was like, It's like some guy got my info off my card when I paid for my food at his job.
That's so gross.
Yeah. So he got my.
It's like I know I have personally like made efforts to like keep a lot more of my stuff private, and like VTubing helps a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still like okay with like, you know, people knowing that I have a face.
Yeah, me too.
But like, I don't want to take pictures of like any background stuff or, you know, like identifying landmarks because it's so scary.
It's so scary. I found my old Tumblr the other day because I accidentally logged in with the wrong email and it logged me into my old Tumblr. And I had a string of anonymous messages that I'm assuming spanned years from the same person. And they were the scariest. Like, it was just escalating. Like, they just kept getting more and more angry that I wasn't acknowledging them. And you could tell it was from different years because they would reference stuff going on, like on my Twitter or like on stream and stuff. And I've never been so scared. Like, that person's probably listening. That person's probably listening and probably watches my stream. And I can't do anything about it. And I'm just like, oh, God. Like,
we have a new podcast feed, so maybe not.
Maybe not. No, but I think like they just always know, and I'm like, and it's not that guy. So there's like multiple weirdos out there. Like, don't be creepy. And like, what can I do? Nothing.
Yeah, just be careful. Use VPN and
Well, and like the thing about
your metadata,
like, oh, I bought dinner. That's how someone found. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's just not.
So someone sent me a video the other day of like a person had a picture where like their key was in, like the key to their house was in frame. So somebody used that picture to like make a replica of that key. It's like, fucking stop it.
It's
like,
so creepy.
I hate that. Like people who can, there's this guy on TikTok who like literally, he will look at pictures and be like, oh, I recognize this type of grass or like this type of architecture, and will like pinpoint where the photo or video was taken. I hate that shit.
I believe it because
so
I was streaming GeoGuessr once, and I said out loud, "This could be by my house," and then zoomed into a sign, and it was my area code, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Oh. So like you literally can like recognize.
I hate it.
I was like, "Oh no!" Like trying to play it off like I didn't know. Like, oh, I just almost doxed myself.
Anyways, internet security is scary. Stalking is scary.
This episode's kind of like a PSA, but honestly, that's what the movie is about.
No, like I think it's interesting that like, because I've talked about like there's not a whole lot in horror that like actually scares me, but like these real world implications and like parallels with stuff that I have experienced, like fucking scary. I don't like it. Cut that shit out.
Yeah. The only horror I get real scared of is realistic stuff, like realistic scenarios like this. Like everything that happened to her could happen. And it's like, oh, that's like the scariest horror. Like ghosts, whatever. Cults are kind of scary, I guess, but
religious trauma.
Speaking of religious trauma, I'm glad you brought that up. I have a public service announcement for all listeners. Don't watch the movie The Pope's Exorcist. Please, for the love of God, don't watch that movie. It's so bad. I've never walked out of a theater. That's the first time I've ever left a movie, and we weren't even halfway through. Like, when I'm telling you, I left the movie to go to the bathroom at one point because I was like, I can't watch this. And then I went back in the movie, and then my friend was like, I can't do this. So we were left again. And then out come my other two friends, like with my purse and our stuff, and we're like, no, we're not doing this. Like, we're not watching this movie because it's so bad. Don't watch it.
Which like after you told me about that on Saturday, and then I talked to my dad about it today because he was saying that like, I don't know, we were just talking about movies. And he was like, oh, your sibling took your 5-year-old niece to go see The Pope's Exorcist. And his reaction was, that's a weird movie. And I was like, my friend said it's the first movie that they walked out of,
it's
like
so
ever.
Bad. It's so bad. It's
just
so,
like, why would you take her to that?
a 5-year-old. No.
Given the details that you told
There's
me,
a
where there's like a
scene.
child possession.
Yes, I mean, they kill a pig in the first like 2 seconds, but that's the most exhilarating thing that happens because then they do nothing. Just a bunch of men speaking Italian to the Pope, and Russell Crowe is being like a naughty little exorcist. And
spoilers for the Pope's exorcist.
Sorry, I guess. I don't know. I can't really spoil it because I did not finish it. But this kid gets possessed, and I was falling asleep, and I bolted up because the little kid grabs his mom's boobs and goes, "You never breastfed me, mommy." And and the mom's response is like, she goes, "What the fuck?" And it's like, yes, yeah, because like, what? But that's the first time I left. I was after that because I was like, oh no. And I don't know.
Evil Dead good. We saw that.
Oh,
Evil
yes.
Dead good.
Evil Dead good. That's something positive.
Good.
Evil Dead very good.
Best scary movie of the year so far.
Yeah. Well, I really like Scream.
I enjoyed Scream. I think I liked this a little bit more. There were parts where I was laughing and nobody else was, and that just made it funnier to me.
I know you were laughing. I was like, oh, no.
There are so many parts throughout it where it's like, how can you not let out a little tee-hee?
Well, I would, but whenever no one else is, well, I guess you were, but like no one else in the theater was, my brain, like my autism goes, no, don't make yourself known.
I don't think I'm capable of laughing quietly. Like I can't help it.
I'm very good at pretending to be a robot.
That's why like I get in like trouble, not really, when people tell me stories at work about, so we have a break room at work that has like glass walls, and people were like regularly running into it, and, and so occasionally you could just be chilling and then you hear like a thunk as people run like headfirst into this wall. So they put like frosted glass like literally like at face, like eye level, so that you don't run into it. Like,
that's so
like someone funny. My coworker was telling me about someone who like bonked off of it. I just like started laughing because I can't.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh. Ugh. Anyways, Perfect Blue.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Y'all should watch it.
You should watch it and be careful going into it.
Yes.
If those topics are things that you're sensitive towards, because it is a lot.
It's a lot. I feel like I'm in a place now where I can handle watching stuff like that. But if I had like watched it before I ever watched it, I would have just been like, nope.
Yeah, where a lot of movies would cut away now and like leave the implication there, this does not. So
there's an extremely graphic scene.
Keep that in mind.
But that's all I have. That's all I have to add for you.
I think that's all that I've got to. Our next animated movie will probably be like Paranorman or something.
Less heavy.
Yeah. I don't know what we're going to cover next, but we'll see. I think we're due for something new.
Yeah, I think so. Which is exciting because there's a lot to choose from. There's that new one coming out where they grab the hand and then the spirits come. Not like that. They like the spirits.
Oh yeah, there's like it's like a game.
Yeah, and then the spirits are like connected or whatever.
And it's got dead parents.
Yeah. Apparently it's going to be really scary. I'm always skeptical though when they're like, this will be the scariest movie you ever watch. Because like, it's not even out yet.
People were saying that Evil Dead was going to make people barf.
I can see where it would. I follow a guy who works in a movie theater and someone did.
Oh no.
Yeah. I think if you go into that movie and you're not used to gore, yes, it could make you puke.
Did you know that they're filming a sequel to the Nicole Kidman AMC theater thing?
No way. Wait, are they gonna get rid of Nicole Kidman?
No, I think she's coming back for it. It's just gonna be just gonna be a different one. I
went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy and I was sitting next to my friend who I don't like talk to that often. I mean, we talk, but like not as often. He doesn't know me like as well. And I turned to him and I was like, she's here. And he was like, what? And I was like, oh. And then I turned to him and I was like, heartbreak feels good in a place like this. And he was like, what? And I was like, no, please. It's like Nicole. And we've been going to a local theater on Tuesdays because it was $5. And she's not there. And I'm always like, heartbreak doesn't feel good in a place like this. And she's not here. Oh man, I wonder what the sequel will be. I can't wait to find out. I hope she sings in it.
Figured you would appreciate that little
I
tidbit of
do.
information.
I'm very excited. I'm gonna have to tell everyone. I'm going to the group chat right now.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank y'all. Have a good time wherever you are.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to Monster Masquerade. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to let us know somewhere on the internet and consider sharing the show with a friend. If you have a suggestion or topic you'd like to see us discuss, hop on over to our Patreon to unlock exclusive bonus content and do just that. And we'd super appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes. It's the fastest way to help the show grow. You can find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you find podcasts.